Hello and welcome to the 100K Hairstylist podcast. We are on episode number 16, which is all about raising your prices. So, have you been at the same prices in the salon for a long while? Are you thinking about potentially increasing your prices? Or maybe the thought of increasing your prices gives you extreme anxiety. You are not alone on that, my hairdresser friends. If so, this episode is definitely for you. So raising your prices can make or break your business, and it is critical to know exactly when you should increase your prices, and so that you can keep your guests and increase your income and live a life that you love. Now, what most hairstylists do when it comes to assessing their prices is they look at other salons in the area to see what they're charging. Or even worse, they just kind of, finger in the wind it and try to estimate what their prices should be. And sadly, this is the exact opposite way you should be analyzing your prices. It does not have to be overwhelming and scary, though, I can assure you. I have a special guest today, Mr. Alexander Healey. We both have successfully increased our prices over the course of a 20-year career. 20 years.
It's a long time.
Yes. And we're going to share the ins and outs of increasing your prices so that you don't lose customers and can finally charge what you're worth, ultimately creating an income and a life that you love. So let's dive right on in. First, I want to introduce you to Mr. Alexander Healey. You guys, Alex and I have known each other since high school, if you can believe it or not. So I thought it was totally appropriate that he was our first guest here on the show. And we went through everything together. We went through beauty school together.
Yes.
We went through beauty school teachers training together.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what your background is?
All right. Well, hey, everybody. I'm Alexander Healey, and I'm the owner of Alexander Dana Salon in Tampa, Florida. And like Jim said, we went to teacher training school together. We helped each other through beauty school. We've worked together. I myself have worked in all kinds of salons from, small salons, big salons, boutique salons. I've taught beauty school. I've worked for a major product company. I've done education for myself and local salons. And now I consider myself a hair replacement and extension specialist.
Awesome. And you have got some really great information because Alexander has raised his prices multiple times through his career. And I think right now, you're even going through a price increase.
Yeah, I'm right on the edge of that.
That is awesome. Okay, so we've got some information to share with you guys. So, Alex.
Yes.
I know that it can be really scary to people, the thought of raising their prices, and just a little bit overwhelming.
Absolutely.
What can you say about that?
Raising your prices is a really important thing. It gives people respect for the services we're providing, for the education that we go and get, for the time, and respect for us. And it also, believe it or not, makes us more in demand. The busier we get and the more education and the higher prices come, the more in demand we become.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of people who are watching this right now, when we're talking about raising their prices, they immediately go to a place of anxiety.
Sure.
And I think it's because they think, will I lose customers? Or, how do I tell my customers that I'm increasing my prices? Yeah. Or even, am I worthy?
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that's a tough one, right? Yeah. And so we totally get it, you guys. We know that these are questions that you're having. And the reality is that yearly prices inflate on everything. It happens, right?
Right. I mean, cost of living increases 3 to 5% a year, for everything in our lives. We should be no different with our services.
I agree completely. You know, everything from when you're visiting the grocery store and getting a gallon of milk will increase to just taking your car to, say, like the detailer to get your car detailed. So it is inevitable that increases should happen. And postponing it is only going to bring you further from your success goals. So you should definitely be increasing your prices at least once a year, I feel like.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, totally. So reality of it here is, and I'll bet that a majority of people watching this haven't increased their prices for a long time.
Yeah.
And are probably overdue.
Yeah, a lot of people are. And I think that's where it gets scary, you know? So what do we do? For me, I think it's really important to raise the prices, especially when you go get education, when you are working so hard in the salon. You know, we get so booked up and have no room, no time for ourselves. You know, these are all signs that it's time to raise.
Yeah, and let's face it, every year you are increasing your skill level behind a chair, just physically doing hair, because the expectations of customers have changed, and we've had to morph and adapt what we're doing. It's no longer, you know, highlights and touch-ups anymore. It's specialized placement of highlights, specialized stitches that we need to use to get these end results.
And our guests are much more informed than ever before.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And, you know, I feel like your skill level totally increases just inadvertently doing this over a period of time. Not to mention
practice every day.
Totally. And not to mention education, right?
Yeah.
Like, how much education have you had this year, and how much have you invested?
Absolutely.
In
and
education?
your prices need to reflect that.
Oh. Oops, sorry, Instagrammers. There we go. Absolutely. And I think that your prices should reflect that. And that comes down to what? Like your value, right? Like what you're worth.
Self-worth.
Totally. You've got to be able to kind of put that aside and know that you are worthy of a price increase. And if you have had any moment behind the chair where you've said, damn, I really nailed that face framing highlight. Or
absolutely.
Right? Or
the wins. We all have those days where we really feel like we're winning.
Totally. Those wins tell you that you are worthy enough to increase your prices.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I totally agree. So if you've met the high expectations, and let's talk about the high expectations of customers for a moment, shall we?
Okay.
We've got these influencers online, right? Love them to pieces. Good friends and great people.
Great artists.
Great artists. There's no doubt about it. But they are informing the public more and more about coloring services.
The process. Our consumers are so educated. You know, we have Guy Tang and Brad Mondo and all the beauty bloggers and the stuff on YouTube that our consumers are watching, and they come in with a base knowledge and understanding of what we're doing. And I feel like that's when it's our job to really, you know, take the reins back and say, hey, you know, I'm glad that you understand. Let me show you a little bit further. And as long as we can educate them on the why, I think we'll be very successful.
I agree. Why we're going through the process and why it's not going to take what it looks like to be one sitting for somebody.
One sitting and a whole lot of filters.
And hours and hours of work. I mean, like these color corrections and unicorn hair
multiple
transformations.
And,
oh my gosh.
Hours behind the chair.
And costs money. So the
exactly, it costs money.
Totally.
Real money.
It costs money, it's expensive, and it takes a long period of time. So being able to have the knowledge to do it and educate people on how long it's going to take is going to be crucial. But that right there is another reason why people are worthy of increasing their prices, because
absolutely
they have the knowledge to be able to do the skill and the
and it all comes back to the education we give ourselves and the value that we place on our time and services.
It is totally true. So know, you guys, that you are totally worthy of a price increase, okay? If any of these things are sounding familiar, where you've had to educate customers on the process, or you've been just so proud of that face framer that you delivered on that you weren't so sure when you were doing it if you could deliver on it, you are worthy. That means that you are educated and you're constantly growing. So another indicator that you are ready for a price increase is if you're overbooked. Right?
Yes.
So you look at that schedule during the day and you're like, ooh, girl, when am I going to eat?
Yeah. Guilty.
Guilty, yes. if you're 80%, like if you know your numbers and you're 80% booked continuously and consistently, then you are totally due for a price increase, okay? If there are those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I hardly had a chance to pee today,
Yeah.
you're probably due for an increase.
You need to open up some room for yourself.
Absolutely. And I know that increases can stress people out. Like, how am I going to do it? Am I going to lose customers?
Whew, seriously.
But I feel like the reality is that every year you're going to lose customers anyway.
Well, life happens. Unfortunately, some people pass away, people move, people's financial situations change. Sometimes, we don't have a win, real life. It happens.
It does. It does. And so you're going to lose people regardless of whether or not you're increasing your prices or you're not.
But if you're still maintaining the 80% booked rate, you're going to get new people. You're going to open up space for new people, and your life is going to be better. And you're going to make more money.
And, here's the good thing about that, too. I feel like when you're increasing your prices, for anybody that maybe has fallen off, you're either at a wash because you've increased your prices. You're now seeing less customers making more money.
And you have more time making the same money.
And you have more time making the same money. Bingo. So it takes the stress, you guys, away from doing this when you think about it like that. It really kind of makes this a stress-free situation because, even if you lose people, bless their hearts, as wonderful as they were, what do you recommend for people who maybe don't have it in their beauty budget? What do you recommend hairdressers say?
Okay, so in my situation, in the times where I've raised my prices, I have been very anxious, nervous. I'm going to lose people or upset the clients that have been with me for over a decade, and have so much loyalty. But what I found is by raising my prices, I'm just getting busier. And in more demand. I keep getting new people. And I'm now at a point where I feel like to give the best time to those clients that have been with me for so long, and maybe it's not in their budget to go up. I offer a recommendation to go to, either one of my assistants or to somebody else that's in the salon and start a new journey.
Bingo. Oh my gosh, such a good point. And I feel like that's the thing is that if Mary doesn't have it in her beauty budget, it's okay. You can tell Mary, I'm still going to be here in the salon, and I recommend
so get to visit. And honestly, guys, what I've found in my own business is that people may thin out the frequency of their appointments, but they will still come in and see me. Or maybe they'll just come in and get a highlight with me and a haircut with somebody else.
Yes.
And then we're sharing services and I'm helping bring up and build books for the other people, in my salon.
It's still revenue for the salon and it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. So know that it's okay to lose customers as long as you're making recommendations to bring them to somebody within your organization.
And you're making room for new people.
So we now know. They get it. It's time to increase their prices, right? Okay, if you are overbooked and you are ready to increase your prices, I feel like the best thing to do at this point is to just pick a date.
Yes, have a deadline.
Do you know when would be a better time for them to raise their prices?
So traditionally what I do is around Christmas. People are spending more money, people tip better.
So good.
And I've never had a problem with that. People have never had a problem.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that if they understand your value and are happy with their hair, they're going to increase it. They're going to be okay with the increase, and the only way they're not going to be okay is if it's not in their beauty budget. And we've got to know that that's okay too.
Right. And we can have a conversation. Hey, you come in a little less frequently, or you do highlights every other time and a base color every other time.
Totally. I think that's a good point. Holidays are a wonderful time. People are spending more money, like you said, and chances are they're not going to leave you during the holidays because they want to look good for their parties and their family events and that whole thing.
I try and raise my prices, $1 to $3 per service per year, and then as needed, I do a larger 10 to 20% increase when I'm really booked or when I have a specialty training or have developed a new skill.
Totally. And in our salon, when we owned our salons, it was pretty much like a $5 increase at each level.
Okay.
So as people progressed into the levels, it was like a $5 increase per service for haircuts, hair coloring services. And people didn't have a problem with it. And if they did, they saw somebody at a lower level that they knew would be able to support them in their needs.
Or they have a conversation and come in a little less frequently.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, split them up a little bit. Extend the services out a smidge for them. Opens up space on your schedule so you can take more
Either
people.
way, it's a win-win situation.
Yes. But if you guys are overbooked and undercharging right now, just set a freaking date. Don't wait till Christmas time. I mean, we're not even approaching summer yet.
Just set a date.
Set a date here soon and start charging what you're worth. So start increasing those prices. So how do you do that? Right? Yeah. I know that the first thing people do is they start looking at their neighboring salons and start looking at their prices.
I've done that. I have done that.
Me too. I know. And it was probably the worst thing I could do because you start to have realizations around the fact that there are so many salons at different price levels and experience levels.
There's so many beauty professionals.
There is, and they're all at different experiences, right? So we have to know what our prices are worth, what our experience is worth, our level of skill is worth.
So for me, what kind of took me out of that mindset was realizing that, there are so many amazingly talented hairdressers, in our communities, and we are all artists. And the guests and the people that come in to see us subscribe to our brand of art. They're here for us, as much as they're here for the service. And when I changed that mentality, it became a way easier thing to do, raising prices. Because I'm an artist.
So good, because, there are different levels of art, right?
Yeah. And people have different expectations.
Totally true. I always recommend that you look at how much your service times take. How long does it take you to complete a haircut? Yeah. How long does it take you to complete a touch-up? How long does it take you to complete a highlight? And write all that down if you don't have it written down yet.
Yeah.
Because this is going to allow you to then understand how much you should be charging per hour or per minute.
Well, then you can figure out how much you want to make.
Totally. So let's just say you are at a place where you're like, I want to make this dollar amount per hour. Mm-hmm. Then you can take all of your services.
Well, if you know your time, you can break it down.
Bingo. Right? It's as simple as that. So easy peasy.
And it gives you goals. If you want to improve your time, you want to make more money, hey, maybe you need to be a little bit faster with your full highlight. So practice that, shave that 15 minutes off.
It's such a good point. Oh my God, so good. I knew you would come through with lots of value. It's so critical to try to avoid looking outside of the box at other salons and start looking within your own box to say, this is what I'm valued at, this is what I'm worth per hour.
I think that's true of people in general and how we live our lives. We need to look inside, not outside, inside.
So true. But so start breaking it down. Write all your prices down, look at how much you are worth per hour, and then start attaching that hourly rate to all of your services in your service roster. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, costs of product. Oh. Yeah, they're increasing every year too.
Inflation, my product costs have gone up, hair color, the extensions, the wigs I use, and that's something we have to pass on, otherwise we stop making money.
Totally, because suddenly you're in a deficit because cost of goods have increased. So you want to make sure you're always on top of that by adding in the cost of your products to each service.
Well, I think it's important for hairdressers to know what it costs to perform their services,
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, some services, like you said, extensions are going to have a higher product charge associated with it
versus
than
a haircut.
Yeah.
Some services, blow dries, haircuts are time costs, and some services, color, extension, are product costs plus time.
Totally. So keep that in mind, too, when you're doing your prices.
Yeah.
For sure. I agree. So, one of the big questions I get a lot on social media when it comes to prices, is, should I let my clients know?
Yeah. That's a tough one. I've done it both ways. I've kind of just done it. I've kind of had conversations. And both have worked for me personally. I typically don't have a conversation when I raise a few dollars, but if, for example, hair extensions went up significantly, due to COVID and the pandemic, so I had to have a conversation with people, hey, there's been a 30% increase on your normal bill, and people just said, okay,
Yeah, I mean, that's supply and demand.
Right.
Cost of
That
goods.
was out of my hand. But, raising my prices as a service, I don't think you need to have a big drawn out conversation. Most of my clients have just said, okay.
Exactly. And I'll be honest with you, I have never told people about an increase.
Okay.
Yeah, and here's what I do instead. Because let's face it. Okay, it's a bit of an awkward conversation. It's the thing that all hairdressers. Yeah, it's like, who wants to? I don't want to do
flat
that
at the front desk.
Right. And so what you do is you have to think of it this way. When you go to the grocery store, you're not going to be educated before you arrive that the cost of milk has gone up.
Sure.
When you go and get your car detailed, they're not going to tell you before your appointment visit, that the cost has increased. It's just is what it is. It's just increased. And so I don't know why hairdressers all feel like they have to have this long, drawn-out conversation. I get it. In a case where, like you said, extensions or something like that have increased drastically because there's a shortage in supply,
that's a slightly different
conversation. That's a different conversation for sure. But if you're raising your haircuts and colors by, $3 to $5,
I don't think you need to have a big drawn out conversation.
Totally. Instead, what I say you do is focus on the positive things.
Yeah, your education.
Totally.
The skills and services you're providing.
110%. How much you've grown over the past year. By the time they get to the front desk, they've already been prepped to know your value.
Absolutely.
They know how much they've grown with you.
I've found that most of these people that I, discuss my education with are really excited. They're more excited to be in my chair. They want to see what I've been learning, and they have value in what I'm doing.
By the time they get to the front and they see the price increase, it doesn't even matter because they know what you're worth already, and they're willing to pay for it. And those who may not have it in their budget, again, you can refer them to somebody in the salon that would better meet their needs or stretch out their services. Yeah, I totally agree. If people do have a problem up front, I have had an occasion where in our salon, and guys, we've had it over a decade, we've done it this way in our top 200 salons, and we haven't had any issues that were extreme. Sometimes we'd have a customer be like, oh, I didn't know you had a price increase, and they threw a little bit of a hissy about it. It wasn't huge.
So you just honor your previous prices, and you say next time, there's going to be an increase.
Bingo. Yeah. So,
it's not a big drama. It's not a big deal. You just say, okay.
Yeah, no worries. We'll honor the existing prices for you today.
Yeah, but now you know.
Now you know, and on your next visit, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
Does that work for you, or can we maybe get you with an artist that better suits your beauty budget? Yeah. Right? Totally. It's very simple. Or maybe we can stretch it out or do whatever. Then those options come into play. Oh my gosh. Well, I think the point here is that if you're overdue for a price increase, you now have some simple strategies. Yeah, and just do it. Just do it. Just set a date and do it. And you don't need to write no letters. You don't need to do any of those things. If that scares you or if something that you feel like you really need to do, then go for it. You can do it either way, like you said. You've done it both ways. It's worked out well.
Yeah.
But you don't have to if that's something that frightens you. Just set a date and raise your prices.
Most of the time, people have looked at me and said, I will follow you anywhere and pay anything.
Indeed. And every single time I have had an increase, I haven't had that significant loss that people are always scared of.
No, I've only ever gotten busier.
I've only made more money.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. So just set a date and do it. Now, Alexander, thank you so much. I knew you'd come through.
My pleasure.
For our audience today. And if you guys don't know Alexander, what are your handles?
I'm on Instagram, Alexander Dana, and I'm on Facebook for Alexander Dana as well.
Awesome. Come say hi on social.
Absolutely.
And now that you have all this great information, if you want to have a handy calculator that's going to assist you in the process of raising your prices, where you can just type in everything that you need. So I have a calculator that you can type in how much you want to make a year, and it'll break down per hour and minute what you should be charging.
I think that's a great tool.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And you can go ahead and get that over at GardnerJames.com/hairstylist growth. And you can join the HGA program where you're not only going to learn how to become part of the top 5% of hairstylists, but you're also going to get that calculator tool that will assist you in determining what you should be charging to the minute, so you know exactly what to charge based on the time that it takes you to do a service. It's awesome. So you can let your customers, or you can let that calculator do the work for you and know how much you should be charging. It'll auto-populate everything for you. Go and check it out. If you haven't, smash that like button and subscribed. What are you waiting for?
Absolutely.
Do it. And we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Bye.